Sergio Mendes, thank you so much for talking with me again. We chatted before the pandemic, and it's terrific to catch up with you again. I'm really grateful to you. How have you been?
Good, good.
What's happening?
Luckily, we didn't have COVID. We got all the shots, all the vaccination, all the stuff. So far we're good.
You've avoided it. That's amazing.
Yes.
That's fabulous. And you're still, I know that it's your birthday coming up pretty soon.
Yes,
you're still
that's right,
so
February.
active
Yes.
in the music. I had a look at the documentary that was made about you in 2020 that takes you back to through your childhood and growing up. What was that like for you to walk through that?
It was a great experience because John Scheinfeld that produced it and that directed, and he's a great guy, very musical, very sensitive. So we spent 2 years together. We went to Brazil and here, and it was really a great experience. He did a great job putting it together, and it was a very, very, very good experience for me to review my life, and we had some good footage. He was able to get some great footage from different shows and different places. So yeah, it was great.
It must have been a bag of mixed emotions for you, was it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I didn't see it until it was finished. He didn't want me to see it, and I didn't want to see it. Where I didn't see any of the interviews either. I came on the end, and because he didn't want to, cut the surprise. Yeah, it was great. It was wonderful.
Yeah,
and it's been very well accepted all over the world. Have you released it in Australia?
I don't think so. No, I mean, as I said, I've seen it because your beautiful assistant sent it to me, but I haven't seen. I'm going to check out and see when it will be released.
Okay. All right.
So that I can promo that as well, because it's something that everybody should see. It's like This Is Your Life, 2 hours of This Is Your Life, Sergio Mendes. And it's got so many fabulous insights into who you are and how your life has panned out. It's an incredible story. So, everybody should definitely see it. Sergio, the one thing I really took from that, well, I took many things from the documentary, but one of them was how you've managed to stay so relevant and almost alter yourself like a chameleon over the times to keep your music relevant as music has changed over the decades.
Well, I overuse a word, an English word, at the documentary, which is serendipity, which is a beautiful word, I think. It describes exactly, being at the right place at the right time, but all of that, not only that, but, your luck, your destiny, whatever you want to call it. But I'm very curious, and I always like to do different things. Since I started as a musician, to play with different people and to like make left turns and do something different and unique and fresh. And I still like that.
Yeah, and everybody wants to play with you, so you're able to make that happen, which is fabulous. Can we go back to where it all started from you? Do you mind walking me through an abridged version of your life too?
Well, it started with the piano coming to my life when I was, I think, 7 years old, and start taking classical music, and then around 12 years old, 13, I listened to jazz for the first time, and I fell in love with the language, and I started putting together, trios and quartets, and 69, 68, 69. I'm sorry. Let's see. 58, 59, Bossa Nova starts in Brazil.
Right.
the great music and Antonio Carlos Jobim, and I was working on a small club in Rio, in Copacabana, the Bottles Bar, and so again had different bands, different, and bossa nova was just exploding all over the world. They had a bossa nova concert at Carnegie Hall in November of '62, which is exactly 60 years today. And I came with my band, and Jobim came, João Gilberto, and then I met all the greats,
So, I mean, so you were really caught up in music from a very early age, and there was never any doubt that that was what you were going to do with your life. But I can imagine your father, who was a physician, was he happy about that, or did he have dreams of you following in his footsteps?
He had mixed feelings. He didn't realize then that, because being musicians in those days in Brazil was not something that would give you a great future or anything like that. So my mother was very supportive from the beginning. Yes.
And where did you take your musical talent from, do you think?
Where?
Yeah, from whom?
No, I don't know.
Neither of your parents were musical, were they?
None of them. No.
So
I guess
once
being in Brazil, around this wonderful music and the rhythms, and just I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, then when the bug bit you and that was all you were going to do, you were really determined that you were going to climb the ranks and make it to the top, weren't you?
Never thought about the top. I was sure that that's what I love to do it. That was my passion, period. And I embraced that, and I said, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. But not thinking ever about the,
about the money and success.
I think things have a way to to happen or not happen, and that's the way it is in music and in anything in life, I guess.
Right. So you made your first recording in 1961. That was called Dance Moderno. You were already off and running that early.
Well, not running. I was off.
Often working.
Often working and struggling. And yeah, that was my first album. And then we put together the Bossa Rio Sextet. And then I came after Carnegie Hall, I went back to Brazil and decided to come to the United States because we had a coup d'etat in Brazil, military taking over, and it was very complicated times. So I decided to come to the United States, and which I did, put together a band and start rehearsing and auditioning here in LA. There's a couple of jazz clubs that we played there, and and then record people would come and listen to different labels, and one of the labels was A&M, Alpert and Moss, Jerry Moss and Herb Alpert. They came, and they loved the band, and they signed me to A&M. It was a perfect time because Tijuana Brass was just taking off, and huge success, and it was a great experience working at A&M.
Yeah, I've just come off
very close friends.
I've just come off a Zoom call with John Ford Coley, and he said to pass on his regards to you too. He said, "I'm going back to the A&M days today with both of you for sure." But how different was it? How different was it trying to make it happen in Los Angeles as opposed to having been in Brazil?
I don't understand. I'm sorry.
When you came and lived in America and were looking to get record deals there, how different was that in the scene in America at the time than where you had left in Brazil?
Well, Brazil in those days was very complicated, as I told you, because they call it the revolution. So they were arresting people. It was just terrible. and the military kind of trying to take over. And so it was a very, very dark period for music, and and I thought it was a great, and being here before, having been here before in New York and meeting all the great jazz musicians, and I said, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to come to America, and I want to start a career here. So I knew that then. Right. And I'm very glad I did.
Yeah, well, the rest is history, really, isn't it? I would love you to tell me a little bit about the song "The Girl from Ipanema." That was, I think, 1964, wasn't it? Yeah, and I remember when I was producing radio for a while, I actually found that girl from Ipanema. Can you tell me a little bit about it from your perspective?
Well, Antonio Carlos Jobim was the master. He was a dear friend. In a way, he was my mentor and teacher and, friend. And we spent a lot of time together. And he was just an amazing composer, like Gershwin, like Cole Porter, like those guys, He wrote, I don't know, 800, maybe 1,000 incredible songs. And wow. Every song that he wrote was a gem. So the American jazz musicians got really, very, very influenced by that. That's when Stan Getz recorded "The Girl from Ipanema," which is a beautiful. I recorded later on, and it's a great melody. But not only that one, but I mean, you name it. You say Antonio Carlos Jobim, it's like, wow, an amazing composer. And I'm very glad that I had a wonderful time with him. He wrote songs for me. He produced the album, the Bossa Rio Sextet. And and he spent a lot of time here in LA also. Right. He did.
So by 1966, you had already established Brazil 66, didn't you? And that really took off with audiences right around the world.
Uh-huh.
It hadn't when you were called something else. It didn't resonate as well at all, did it?
I'm sorry, I don't understand you.
No, that's okay. Before you named the band Brazil 66, it didn't get the traction that it did once you changed the name to Brazil 66. You just started to be on fire.
Well, people ask me why. It's a very simple reason. The year was 1966. I'm from Brazil, so nothing more obvious than that. But there's a lot of stories that people say, oh, I know why you call Brazil 66. I say, oh, really? And I say, why? And some people would say, well, how many letters on your name, Sergio? Oh, 6. How many letters on your last name, Mendes? Oh, 6. How many letters on your country, Brazil? 6. What year was that? 66. And how many people in the band? 6. So it became kind of a, but it's funny. It was a great coincidence, It was just a natural thing to call it.
But changing the name from Brazil 65 to 66 seemed to make a real difference to audiences.
Oh, really? No. I think was I had the song, I had the band, and the timing was right. Period. I mean, I could have called Brazil 64, Brazil anything like that. Right. I don't think so. I think the thing is, you at the right timing, you have the great song and the great band, and that's it. Then the sound becomes. Because later on, I even called. I remember the 77 and 88. Yeah. Then I got tired of that stuff. Enough numbers.
So serendipity again in Brazil 66 because the song was Maquinada.
Maskenada.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah, that was a song, such an infectious song all over the world. And the interesting thing also, I think, it was the first time there was a song in Portuguese being an international hit. I think the only time. Because, Go For Me Ipanema had English lyrics and, all those other hits after that. But Maskenada, until today, I have to play it and I love to play it. And I go to, Japan, you name it, Korea or Australia, March que nada, people can sing along and feel good about it. Yeah,
it's become part of the culture in every language, hasn't
yes,
it?
yes.
So what do you think it was about that song? Just the
I think
infection?
the melody is so catchy because people don't know what we're saying. The lyrics don't mean much either, you know. It's like, you know, it's just a sounding good thing, but there's no deep meaning. Like the Girl from Ipanema, there's a
Right.
story, but not on Más que Nada. But I think the melody and then the arrangement of the song and the way it was sung so beautifully by, you know, the girl singing, it was a very simple thing, you know. It became very catchy, you know.
Do you think that's the key to a lot of successful songs, is in the simplicity?
I'm sorry, Ian?
Is in the simplicity, in keeping it simple?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, look at the Beatles and all their songs. They're very, when I say simple, I mean, I'm talking about harmonically, but the line that you can remember, you know, that you can sing along and then remember. And that's what I mean by simple. It's not like Stravinsky, which is
Yeah.
not simple, but it's beautiful.
Yeah,
You know?
I hear you. And it wasn't long before you had your second album, Equinox, and that yielded a number of hits too. But the third album, Look Around, you had covered a couple of the Beatles songs.
Yes.
Why did you decide to do that?
Exactly because of the beautiful melodies. Wonderful. They were wonderful melodists, you know, McCartney and Lennon. And I mean, that was fascinating. I said, you know, if I can add, instead of just covering the song, if I can put it into a Brazilian touch to it, like a bossa nova vibe or something that feels, you know, arrangement wise, that feels different. And that's why I did it. And yeah, absolutely Full on the Hill, and with a little help from my friends and all. Incredible melodies, incredible.
And they worked
I mean,
superbly.
and I kept recording after that, you know, when I heard The Look of Love was the same thing. It was Burt Bacharach. The song was a hit by, who was it? I'm trying to remember. Dusty Springfield. But the melody was so beautiful, and the harmonies too. You know, that's the other thing on the arrangements. The harmonies you put in, the concept of the arrangement, and make it sound Brazilian, I think. So
Yeah.
I think there's no geographical barrier for a song can come from anywhere, can come from Brazil, from Australia, from you name it, from England. But as long as, for me, I love melody. I'm a melody guy.
Yeah, right. Me too. But giving it that Brazilian touch is a bit like taking a nice dish of food and adding the spices, isn't it? What are those? What's the Brazilian spice? What is that Brazilian touch that you talk about? How do you describe that?
I think spontaneity. I think it depends on the song, you know, and again the arrangement, and then how is the song performed, you know? Is that a vocal? Is that an instrumental? And there's no really formula. It's just, you know, something that sticks with you, and you say, "Oh man, I love that. I can't get that song out of my ear," you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that's why you chose the song in the first place, right? But
Absolutely.
when you Brazilian it up, when you make it become Brazilian sounding, I mean, for instance, with Scarborough Fair.
Well, it's in my blood, you know. I was born there, so all those rhythms, you know, the samba, the bossa nova, all the things is something I was born around. So it's very normal to me to feel that beat and to try to play with that kind of beat behind, you know.
Yeah, it's you're unique in that, aren't you? Nobody else is putting the flavor of their country onto music. Most musicians have tried to emulate the American sound and keep that going. and you've brought the Brazilian spice to whatever song it is that you've touched.
Yes.
Were you surprised that the world took to those songs?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Really?
Every time. Oh, absolutely. Because you don't plan that to be what became, and all of a sudden you hear that on the radio and you see record companies calling and say, oh, your song went #1 or #3 or whatever. It's a great feeling. Yeah. And then when you perform that live in the Philippines or Brazil or Australia, and people sing along with it, it's a wonderful thing. Just singing in Portuguese, for instance, I'm talking about Masquerade now.
Yeah.
But they sing along in a language that they don't speak, which I think is even more, amazing.
Yeah, I think it's completely amazing. So I'm interested to hear that there's nothing really profound in the lyric of Masquerade. It's the melody that got everybody
it's a
going.
Chant kind of a thing,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yo, bow, bow, bow. Chant. It's a tribal chant. I mean, I never said that, but in a way it is very tribal, very.
But even when you did Scarborough Affair, the Simon and Garfunkel song, and you put your own flavors and colors into that, I mean, I think
the arrangement, that's in the arrangement. Bing, bo, bing, bo, bing, bo, bing, bo, bing, bo, bo. It's right on the intro. So it's great sometimes when I feel intros, sometimes they become the hit because people know what's coming after.
Right.
There's a lot of that with the Beatles and Burt Bacharach and even Stevie Wonder, which I love, Stevie Wonder is a great songwriter that I love.
Yeah, he's been a bit quiet lately, hasn't he? I haven't heard much from Stevie.
He's my neighbor. He lives very close by. And I haven't seen him lately, but he's one of my favorite composers of all times.
Really?
Yes.
Amazing. Well, I hope he brings some more things out too that he's not.
I'm sure.
Yeah. It was 1969 when you did a version of Otis Redding Sitting on the Dock of the Bay too. Again, putting the Sergio Mendes touch on it.
Yes.
Why did you choose that one?
Melody again. Melody, and then can I do something different than the original? Can I create a cover that's different than the original? Can I do something to innovate, meaning, taking the song to another place that doesn't sound like the original? I like to do that. I like that. I mean, sometimes I can write a song. I wrote a few songs in my life, but in case of recording other people's songs, I want to be sure that I can. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, not all the time.
So what would you say is your greatest strength as an artist?
My what?
Your greatest strength. Is it in arranging? Is it playing? Where are you most accomplished? Where are you most talented?
I play those roles, meaning I'm an arranger, I'm a composer, I'm a producer, and a songwriter. So all those components are there. When I get a song and I try to, let me see what I can do here with this song, and it enters the arrangement, and I mean, the different roles, But again, I must say, it's so important, the vocals of the girls, starting with Lonnie Hall and many others, like my wife, Gracinha. That sound, I love that sound. It's very simple, and but I like it a lot.
Which role gives you the greatest pleasure, or is that not a fair question?
Which role?
Which role that you play, whether it's producer, composer, arranger, songwriter?
I love playing, performing. I love playing the keyboards very much with the band. It's a wonderful feeling, the personal appearances.
And are you still doing those today?
Personal appearance? Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're putting together next year calendar, and we're gonna play We're doing the Seoul Jazz Festival in Korea. We play in the Philippines. We play in Japan, here in the United States, New York, all over the place. I don't do long tours, but small tours, like 2 weeks to come home, and then that kind of thing.
And you're okay with the flying, and I mean, it must take its toll on you.
Now it's terrible. Yes, it was a Thanksgiving here in America a few days ago. They had like 3,000 cancellations on one day. So that's always something that it didn't happen before the pandemic.
That's
and
right.
You're there in the airport stuck. What are you going to do if your plane doesn't get there for the show? So all those things are, right now they're reality. So we try to leave a day before, sometimes 2 days, 3 days before, be sure that we're there.
Yeah, but I mean, not only that. I mean, it must have been much easier touring when you were 30 rather than when you're 80. What different do you feel the difference? And I guess you accommodate those differences. You take it a bit easier.
It's just more people traveling, and more problem with the flying because of weather or whatever, or pandemic, or it's much more complicated now.
Right.
I mean, for me.
But you're still doing it. That's great, because it not only gives you pleasure, but it gives the audiences such great pleasure too.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. And Sergio Mendes, it was 1983 when you made a comeback album. It was your first in nearly a decade and a half. And that one brought about your biggest chart single ever, which was called Never Gonna Let You Go, which rose to number 4. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Again, going back to what I've said before, I love melodies. And so I received a demo with that song. And I said, wow, what a beautiful song. I'm going to make this story short a little bit. And I also was looking for a male singer, which I never used before. And I met here in LA this young singer named Joe Pizzullo, who's a dear friend of mine. And when I heard him singing, I said, oh man, this is the singer, right song, right melody. Let's go and record it. It became a huge song, great melody. It's Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil. They wrote the song. And that was that.
Do you have a favorite? Sorry, go on.
Yeah. And Joe is an amazing singer. And now it's part of my repertoire, of course.
Yeah. And when you audition singers, do they come to you to try out for you?
Now that, I've had many singers through the years, of course. And they've changed, they get married, they leave, they go do other things. And so it's a combination of word of mouth. And then we meet them. And my wife, Gracinha, she's the boss, she's the singer. So no, it's true, because most of them don't speak Portuguese, and 80% of our repertoire is in Portuguese. So she teaches them, Portuguese, singing in Portuguese. It takes a long time because they learn phonetically, syllable by syllable. And I've been very lucky to have had, amazing singers like Diana Reeves, she was my singer. Saida Garrett, she was my singer too, and many others. I have now this girl, Katie Hampton, fantastic. So, it takes a time to
train them,
to make that thing sound really
authentic.
Yeah, authentic, but that sounds right,
Yeah.
I think that's my wife's job, training the singers.
I think I recall from the last time we spoke that you told me that you had actually met your wife, Gracinha. She was a backup singer for you.
When I met her, no, she was singing. She was 17 years old. She was singing with a band in Brazil. And I saw her singing, and I said, hey, okay, let's go. We've been together for 50 years now.
Wow.
She's great.
Amazing. So since she was 17, you've been together. That's wonderful. And she's been your right hand ever since.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm chatting with Sergio Mendes. Sergio, there's a story that I'd love you to share with the audience about how you were popular in the rest of the world, but not so in America for a little bit of time. And it even became a story on the TV show Seinfeld, didn't it?
On the TV show
Seinfeld. They were talking, in Seinfeld, they were talking about Sergio Mendes.
Oh yeah, and I don't know.
Oh, you don't know about that story? I'll have to tell you, because in one of their episodes, they were doing a little bit of comedy about you and how popular you were in the whole of the world, because you really have touched people all over the world, haven't you?
I feel wonderful, humbly happy about it.
Do you still have to pinch yourself sometimes to realize what you've contributed to music, that it's not just a dream, or do you put it down to just passion and hard work?
Passion and hard work. There you go. Yeah, and perseverance.
So your advice to anybody,
and luck, and having the right band, because I've always had a band. So I'm not a singer that goes there and have an orchestra behind. But yeah, I have a great band right now, young guys, and they all play amazing, great drummer, bass player, guitar, percussion. Yeah.
So it's a team effort.
Yes. How come you haven't asked me when I'm coming to Australia?
I wanted to. When you said to me you're coming to Korea and Japan and the like, that was actually my next question. Are you coming to Australia?
I would love to. Well, we played the beautiful Opera House last time, and I've been many times in Australia. I love Australia.
When was the last time you were here?
Well, we're there, I would say, 4-5 years ago.
I think that's probably exactly the time. That's why I spoke to you last time. That's right, because you were coming here.
We played Melbourne, Perth.
That's right.
Yeah. But I remember, great country. I love it.
Well, we want you back. Can you make a phone call and organize it?
I'm ready.
That would be great. That would be awesome.
So your program goes, is that podcast, right?
Yeah, it's a radio show that goes out to 150 radio stations right across the world, from Bolivia and Kenya and through the US and Canada and the Philippines and all over. And it's also a podcast. Yeah, so it's building. I love to. I'm very passionate about what I do too. The only difference between you and me, you make money from what you do and I don't. But that's okay. I'll persevere.
Anyway, great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Sergio, just before I let you go, can we just talk a minute about Encanto that you did with will.i.am and from the Black Eyed Peas?
Yes, sure.
You started to move with the times and work with people that were in hip hop, which is so disconnected from the music that you've been done before. What went through your mind?
Again, it's all about what I told you prior. Curiosity. I always love to work with different musicians from different cultures, different ages, and so that's part of my life. And so Will came to my house, and he brought in all my old records. He lives here in LA and said he was a fan and blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh man, let's make a record together. I said, sure, let's do it. And it was a wonderful experience because it was so spontaneous. Everything, because he has that same thing that I have, the curiosity, when he likes to do things different. And so it was a great encounter working with him. We went to the studio and everything just flew beautifully. And then he brought in, he invited his friend John Legend and Common, and yeah, we had a great time. And so the Masquinada hit again 40 years later was a totally different version, and gave me a lot of pleasure, and to him as well. So we're both kind of, hey, that's great. That musical experience, to try something new, to try something, how can I redo a song that was a hit, So I think he brought in his own thing to it and make the song sound fresh and new, which I think is fantastic. It was great working with him.
Yeah. Well, and we love the end result of that, the songs that have come out of your collaborations with Will.i.am and John Legend.
We'll get the documentary to come in Australia.
Well, we certainly will.
To John Scheinfeld, yeah.
I'll see what I can do here too. In 2014, you did the FIFA World Cup official album, didn't you? And of course, right now we're in the middle of the World Cup again.
Yes, I love it. I've been watching all the games.
Yeah, so have we. It looks like Brazil's going to win it again, I think.
Not yet. I hope so. But well, it's very weird. World Cups are different. I've seen several. I was in several, 70 and everywhere, in Mexico, in Spain, and in France. And it's sometimes they're big surprises. So I don't count on it. I mean, I hope Brazil wins. So I've been watching all the games every day here.
You didn't want to go to Qatar?
It's too far.
Yeah.
Nobody asked me to play, otherwise I've been there.
You didn't want to go as a visitor, that's right. Just before the pandemic, Sergio, you issued that studio album called In the Key of Joy, and that, of course, went in conjunction with the documentary. But can you tell me a little bit about the tracks on In the Key of Joy? Do you have a favorite one?
I like all the songs that I recorded. Yeah, I don't have a favorite, no.
There's of all the music that you've recorded, there is not one track that you like best? No.
There are a few that I like it a lot, that I have wonderful memories of recording it. I mean, many, even songs that were not hits. Great experience of recording, but I don't have like one favorite. It's like a painter. Have so many paintings in your life. It's kind of hard to say, oh, this is my favorite. Not really.
It's a bit like your children. You can't choose between them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Sergio Mendes, thank you so much for your time. It's been a great honor to talk with you again, as always.
My pleasure. Anytime.
I hope we do see you down here in Australia very soon again.
And all my love to the Australian people.
Thank you. Keep well, and lots of love to Graciana as well. Keep doing it, Sergio. We love the music you make. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.